Welcome then to our Bible study, and today we will continue with our teaching and sharing on healing, and this is number 9 in the series. Let's go to our first Bible reading then. It's taken from Exodus chapter 4 verses 10 through to 12. And the background here is that God was looking for someone to agree with him to lead his people out of bondage, out of slavery, and into freedom. Then Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before or since you spoke to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." So the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth, or makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, the blind? Have I, the Lord? Now, therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say." Praise the reading of his word. So it's not altogether clear whether Moses simply struggled with speaking or whether he actually had a speech impediment. Some Bible versions talk about it being just an inability to put words together eloquently. Some other interpretations say that it was actually a speech impediment. I now believe that it was actually both, because it was mentioned twice. It was not just slow of speech, but slow of tongue. And also I look at the context where God then goes and answers him by saying, "Who made man's mouth?" and in particular, "Who makes the mute?" I don't believe that's an accident. So I believe it was both. He wasn't articulate and he had some kind of speech impediment. Now, why would an all-wise God choose someone like that? A speaking job given to a person that cannot speak. In our earlier teachings, we see that God gave gifts to men. He gave gifts to men to equip them to do his plan, to execute his purpose. But instead of following that principle here, God chose to glorify himself by picking someone without the gifts, without the qualifications, without the experience, someone that was in fact deficient, possibly deformed in that particular area, and he made him the head. Why? According to his sovereign appointment. God could have healed Moses. He could have given him the gift of boldness, the eloquence of an evangelist. He could have cured his speech impediment. Instead of forcing Moses to depend upon his brother to speak on his behalf when dealing with the children of Israel. And there's a principle there. It may be that leaders are not necessarily meant to lead by themselves. We are meant to be interdependent, but we'll explore that another day. But the bottom line is, God did not heal Moses before he used him. He didn't give him any training. Why could he do that with Moses? If we go to Numbers 12, chapter 12, verses 1 through to 4. The New King James says this. Chapter 12. 12, verses 1 through to 4. Praise his holy name. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. For he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us? And the Lord heard it. Now, here's the key in verse 3. The man Moses was very humble, more humble than all the men who were on the face of the earth. God could appoint Moses, and even though he asked or he raised the issue that he wasn't whole, he wasn't qualified, and the Lord refused to heal him, he knew that Moses would not throw a tantrum if God did not make him whole. He would not be resentful. God knew that Moses would still show up for prayer. He would still attend the temple. He would still give of his tithes and his offering. He would still think and speak highly of God. Moses would remain in the faith. Beloved, that is called faithfulness, and is a big thing with God. God said to Moses, I will be with you. And by implication, my grace is sufficient for you. So here then is my exhortation for today. For those who are sick, still have not been made well, and you're waiting upon the Lord. God does not require you to be healed or whole to execute his counsel or his purpose. We have to be careful that in our pursuit of happiness, our desire to be healed and to be made whole, we do not lose sight of our purpose. Christ said, I have come to make you fishers of men. And I have noticed that in this cynical world, where many of us have become indifferent, that sickness, those sufferings, death, have brought many people together to do good. And maybe God has noticed that too. It shouldn't be so. But we have seen time and time again, someone's in hospital. We haven't seen them for years, but because they're now sick. We attend funerals, we haven't seen them for years, but now because they're past. It is sad, but it is true. And God will work all things together to produce for our good. And we can see that even though Moses did not receive his healing while he was alive, we see that in Matthew chapter 17, we see him honored years after his physical death when he appears with Jesus and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration. Let me read that to you. Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 to 5. Now after 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John, his brother, and led them up the high mountain by themselves. Verse 2. And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared with them, talking with him, Jesus Christ. Then Peter answered and said, Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make 3 tabernacles. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. In verse 5, the number of grace, critical verse in the New Testament, says this: while he was still speaking, he was not allowed to finish that line of thinking, that new doctrine. He said, suddenly in a loud voice, out of a cloud that overshadowed them, it came out of the cloud saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And here's the 2 words: hear him. Hear him. Not Moses, not Elijah, not the law, not the prophets. Hear him. Number 5, grace. Hear him. We know that she was caught in adultery, but Jesus Christ would not accuse her. We know that she's been married 5 years. God will still save her. We know that he was caught stealing and was crucified with Christ. And Jesus said, this day you will be with me. Hear him. Grace and truth came with Jesus Christ. And the eyewitness Matthew goes on to say, in Matthew 16 verses 24 to 26, and Jesus said to his disciple, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And this is my prayer for you. As you pick up your cross and follow Jesus Christ, may you find life. Praise his holy name.